childhood ruined.
I blame you for this.
Floor.
I blame you for this.
Oh gosh.
Good morning, campers, and welcome to the amazing journey that... Okay, I'll stop.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, Tim. You're doing it wrong. It's good morning, campers. And then you get me to like, oh man, I wish I still had my friend's melodica. I could like play the do while you like do the intro.
Maybe we'll edit that in
except
later.
a keyboard. This is an opportune.
Maybe we'll do that later, but for now, hi, welcome.
Anyway, we are Triple Threat. We are the talk show podcast on the internet, on your computer, in your headphones, in your ears, and in your mind too.
Everywhere, we're the best.
Exactly. We are here, there, and everywhere. That's the wrong band, but that's beside the point. Today, anyway, I forgot to say who we are.
I got it. We overwhelm as we approach you. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. We are. Oh, I'm sorry. We haven't even said who we are. We are your hosts. My name is Tom Urrutia and Tommy, and joining me is Garrett Hicks, the Pinball Wizard.
What's up?
And Becca Cristino, the Acid Queen.
Well, if we're gonna go,
we're gonna go there.
All right, sure.
Okay. And in case you haven't caught on to the enormous references, first of all, why the hell are you listening?
Exactly.
And second of all, today's topic is going to be, we have done this talking about, the big ones, the albums that from time to time we're going to be talking about, referring to, and people are going to be going, well, geez, what the heck is this thing all about?
If we don't explain them first, and here we are.
Exactly. So, we've done, things like that before. So we're going to continue this in this series of the big ones. And then, of course, we'll tackle the underdogs and the underappreciated albums. And those will be as fun as all heck.
And other big ones, of course.
Yeah. But today we're focusing on Tommy, a 1969 album by The Who. Double album came out in 69. I already said that. The Who's first rock opera, arguably the first rock opera of all time. Their first, not their first concept album, because people would say that would probably be The Who Sellout.
Yeah.
But today is Tommy, the wonderful, confusing story that has confused others, but we don't care because we love it to death. And everybody, has probably heard about Tommy in some form. It was a movie. It's been a Broadway show. It has been performed by the London Symphony Orchestra. So we're going to be talking about just the album today. We'll do all that stuff probably in a later episode, talking about that stuff. So we'll be talking about the songs, there's some history behind it, and even some, of course we'll also give into what we think of the album. So who wants to start on Tommy? Who wants to give, maybe a little bit, 1 to 2 minute synopsis of it?
I got it. So, first things first. If you find an album that has better riffs than Tommy, I will call you many bad names. Because I honestly think this is some of the best riffs, first, of anything on this, of any album ever. It's amazing.
Well, do you know why?
Do I know why?
Well, because it's essentially musical. Musicals bring back riffs all the time.
Yeah. Because it's theatrical, that's a big part of it I love about it. It's a rock opera. It's expansive and it's confusing and it takes a lot of stuff you have to read about, and I love that sort of crap.
Maybe explain for those who are listening and maybe don't know. Maybe give like a 1 to 2 minute plot about what Tommy is all about.
Well, it just so happens that I have Pete Townshend's memoir, Who I Am, that has a quick synopsis that he gave while he was still working on it. It's a story about a kid that's born deaf, dumb, and blind, and what happens to him throughout his life. The boy is played by The Who. He's represented musically by a theme that we play, which starts off the opera itself, followed by a song describing the boy. But what it's really all about is the fact that the boy exists in a world of vibrations. This allows the listener to become profoundly aware of the boy and what he is all about, because he's being created by the vibrations of The Who's music as we play.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
That's all, folks. We're good. No, but the actual plot of the story Tommy was born while his father is overseas in the First World War, and his father is pronounced dead, is missing in action, and while he's away, his wife picks up another guy, but then Captain Walker comes back home and he sees his son and his wife with a strange man, and so he shoots the bastard. And so, because Tommy witnessed this entire incident in a mirror and was completely traumatized by it, he becomes deaf, dumb, and blind. Ooh. And so, well, that was, anyway. So he grows up being deaf, dumb, and blind for years and years and years, and his parents try pretty much everything to cure him. Many of those ways are not good, including drugs, abuse, sex.
Yeah, I was about to say that too.
Hanky panky. Eventually, they find a specialized doctor who tells him that he's not actually deaf, dumb, and blind, or some weird crap that I've never actually completely understood. And so, you don't need to completely understand to enjoy this album. Don't worry.
We can help each other out.
When you do understand, it just blows your mind.
Yeah. And so, Tommy is cured.
Yeah.
Tommy is cured when his mother breaks the mirror that he's looking into, because he does that a lot.
Now, this, can I just interrupt for a second? This to me is where the story goes in 80 different directions.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
Because he's cured, and then he finds a love interest, and then he's like a god sort of figure. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah,
But please continue. I'm sorry.
A lot of accounts, I guess, will say that once Tommy is cured, he believes himself to be the second coming of Jesus.
Yeah, that happens.
And then after that, he makes a holiday camp, which, for those of you in America, which is probably most of you, is kind of a vacation spot, a resort, you might call it here, where you go and do fun stuff, have dances and go and jump in the pool or a lake or something.
You just have a good time.
Yeah, it's a place to go during the summer, but you don't want to blow all your money going all out to some other country or locale. And so, while at the holiday camp, his followers eventually reject his calls to spiritualism because, to be honest, Tommy's kind of batshit crazy. And then, so, he's completely rejected by everybody and becomes deaf, dumb, and blind again. Maybe. We're not exactly sure.
And then the story just literally fades away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ambiguous ending. Woo!
Fades away.
Which is funny that you said that Tommy thinks he's the second coming of Jesus, because in the movie they have Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton is God. No, I'm kidding. I
don't think it was God.
No, Eric Clapton's not.
But he is
he's
God.
He's not playing God. He is God.
In the song he's in, the way he played that guitar, I would not be surprised if he was somewhat divine.
We'll talk about that in a later show.
Oh, yeah.
When we talk about the movie, because the movie is something else entirely.
That is another monster entirely.
Right.
Ooh.
Right, but like we said, today is focusing on really just the album. I mean, we can sort of touch on the movie if we feel like it's absolutely necessary at times, or different, variations that we've heard over the years. But now that we've kind of given a synopsis on the story and the album, and of course we're going to go track by track, maybe kind of give like overall impressions or maybe a little bit of history that we may have behind this album. Would anybody like to start? Becca could start for us.
Oh, this album, right? Yes. Well.
That's the topic.
This was Oh, crap! I thought we were talking about the Kinks. Anyways, this album is the first full album I heard by The Who. Like, I heard, greatest hits things and stuff, and that gave me a taste for it, and I was like, yeah, this band is great. But then Tommy was the first thing where I just sat down and listened to it as an album. And it was at a pretty, not gonna lie, pretty crappy point in my life. And that happened with both of The Who's, big albums, Tommy and Quadrophenia. I listened to them at a very rough point in my life where just hearing a story and just immersing myself in the music and the story
I hear
was
you,
just
sister.
Incredible, and it's just enriching. And this Tommy is such a cool, weird story. It's like, yeah, okay, this kid, his parents are total d-bags and they kill the dude, and so he goes deaf, dumb, and blind from shock. And what fixes it? Pinball?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's just incredible.
Which
and the music in this is so like
So
I
good.
had, been a Pink Floyd fan for a while, and heard good instrumentals, and I was like, yeah, the Who are just straight up rock. They can't do this. Yeah, this isn't gonna be. And then you hear Underture, and like this should be boring, but it's not.
Yeah.
And that riff, like Garrett mentioned, the riffs. This album has so many great riffs because of the whole musical, concept album, like opera thing of it, just bringing back these good things in different like ways, but the same way. It's ties everything together so nicely. This is a great album. For a while, I liked it better than.
I think better than Quadrophenia.
Yeah, but then.
Yeah.
Then
We'll get to that.
Well, yeah, I have to agree. I had that same sort of relationship with Tommy. I liked it better than Quadrophenia first because I listened to Tommy before Quadrophenia, and because
that's exactly what happened to me. Yes.
And because Quadrophenia is a much more mature album.
Yes.
Yeah, and Tommy, you can kind of go through it like weird, kooky story and awesome music and everything, and then Quadrophenia gets really serious and really depressing sometimes, but it's still amazing.
Yeah.
How about you, Tom? What's your
Well, not
experience?
to be a copycat, but I pretty much fully agree on everything you guys are saying. I do agree. Yes, I heard Tommy first because, for those of you who maybe know that, my musical influence mainly is my father. He's the one who, he bought every record by his favorite bands, and he had both Tommy and Quadrophenia. I got Tommy, listened to it, and I liked it. Again, I didn't get it because I was a bit young. I'm not young. I was probably 14 at the time, but I still didn't get it, much of it. I liked the songs, and I wouldn't listen to Quadrophenia for a long time because my father said it wasn't as good, and I was like, well, if my dad doesn't think it's good, well, then I probably shouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
And then later I found out he's wrong.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I remember listening to this album, and my dad had the original, not the original CD, but the 96 CD where everything was all on one disc. So I didn't know it was a double album, so the whole time I'd be like, God, why is it taking so long to get to the point? I would look on the back and see the titles, and I'd be like, okay, I get that Amir's involved, there's this girl named Sally Simpson, but where are they? This album is taking too long. Mm-hmm. But I remember getting it, really not my freshman year, but really understanding it and telling the people, when people ask, what do you think of, monumental records or these albums that are hailed as classics, and I'd be like, I love them.
There you go.
As I grow up, I find more albums that that we feel they are underappreciated, and Tommy is not underappreciated at all. Everybody. We'll get to that.
I
just made this face where I go, are you sure Tommy's not underappreciated?
We'll get to that.
I think it's not overappreciated either.
It's not overappreciated, but there are some aspects that get underappreciated. But
some aspects, yes.
I got a lot more respect for this album because this is the album for which I was named after.
Yeah.
So I have a huge respect for it. The story goes, my dad, he's denied it ever since, but I choose to believe this is how I was named. He was driving to the hospital. My mother was already there, and they hadn't named me yet. And he turned on the radio, and they're playing a song. Chances are it was Pinball Wizard. And he heard it, and he said, Tommy would be a good name. And that's how I believe that I was named. So, of course.
It's also interesting because I think I remember that one week where I actually knew you in person for 1 week ever. That you told me that you were born deaf.
I was born deaf, actually. I was actually just about to get to that. The joke was, he's, naming him Tommy is not going to be bad luck. Well, I was deaf when I was born. My parents had to put a lot of tubes in my ears, which have since fallen out, but they've helped with my hearing. And the really sad part is my uncle, he was the biggest teaser in the world, would walk into a room and I would be kind of sitting there kind of admiring the furniture, admiring the colors of the walls, and he'd be singing, Tommy, can you hear me? It's like, oh yeah, great. Thanks, Uncle Juan.
Oh my.
Love you too.
See, this is beautiful. You were born to love this album.
Pretty much. And and every time it comes up in conversation with a bunch of my friends, either it's you guys or Avery or even my brother, we have to refrain from not making puns from the album that are related to me.
Yeah.
The question is, can you play pinball?
I can play pinball. Pinball is actually addictively fun.
I know.
Especially
Oh my
if you
gosh.
go to
So good.
especially if you go to a place like GameWorks and you play the South Park pinball game and they make fun of you when you lose and you have to play again.
Yes.
I prefer the pinball that was on computers in the late 90s.
Yeah, but that's not
and early
really
2000s.
pinball because you're typing keys.
Oh, shut up! It's pinball.
Or there's the Sonic the Hedgehog pinball mini
Yes,
that would come in the
yes.
adventure games. Or
Okay.
your-
They had that?
Yeah, Sonic pinball.
No.
Sonic
Pinball.
pinball's the
Pinball.
greatest.
Anyway, but we digress.
Yes. This is not about Sonic.
Right.
Restaurant nor the furry blue thing.
Yes. So, like I said, I highly respect this album. I mean, yes, at the end, we're going to rate it in our own way, but that's why I feel this is the perfect album to start with. I mean, yes, we could have started the with Who's Next, but the Who's Next is like 3 different shows at once.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So we're going to go track by track, talk about the musical and the lyrics, but of course we're not going to go through every track because, I mean, we're not going to spend 5 minutes on It's a Boy and
Yeah.
Miracle Cure.
Yeah, there's a
Yes,
thing.
we are. We're going to spend 10 minutes on Miracle Cure.
Yeah.
Well, we did spend 12 minutes on Dogs.
No. Gee. There, you have to
That time we
understand.
spent 12 minutes. We don't talk about that.
You spend 2 minutes on Dogs. You don't talk about it longer than that.
Stop it. I thought it needed that all the time we gave it. But anyway, for those of you who don't know, there are 25 tracks on Tommy. We have said it's a double album. Many of these tracks are simply narrative. They are useful only to move the plot along. They're still good songs-ish. They're just short.
Right.
So,
And a lot of songs do run into or segue into each other. So if you're not paying attention, you would think it was one track or one big medley.
yeah, you might.
I mean, on the CD they're separated, so it looks very long.
Mm.
So let's start with appropriately the start of the album.
And we begin with the overture.
Dun, dun.
All right.
My opinion sucked me right in.
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
from the first time I heard it.
Absolutely.
Because
Oh, wow.
I put it on thinking this is definitely gonna be a story, and you guys know me. I'm a musical freak. I'm not afraid to admit it. I like these kind of show tune kind of stuff. So I thought if this is gonna be a grandiose, monumental work, it cannot disappoint me even from the very beginning. And from the beginning, it did not disappoint me, and I was like, "Good on you, Pete."
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm one of those purists kind of who believes you have to listen the first time you listen to an album, especially one as big as Tommy or The Wall or Quadrophenia or whatever. It has to be alone with nothing to do for an hour and a half, 2 hours
Yes.
through your headphones,
Absolutely.
and that's what I did with Tommy. And I ended up kind of, eargasming on the floor after the first 4 notes of Tommy. It's
Getting the chills, right?
Oh, I know, right? Because the beginning chords are just so amazing.
It's very soaring.
Yeah.
And also, you look on the cover and you see the birds flying everywhere. And for some reason, that's what I think of when I hear those chords. I can just imagine, the stereotypical sound and the birds fly out of the trees.
Oh yeah, totally. And it just that song, the overture, it does a great job of setting the scene. It introduces you to most of the musical themes that you'll hear throughout the album, as well as it lets you know what you're getting into immediately.
Can I just say, I'm curious about this. Have any of us, I mean, I'm not, but have any of you guys ever seen a stage production of this?
I have, yes.
I never have, and I've wanted to desperately.
Because I wonder, I mean, there's probably clips on YouTube I could find, but from the overture, is that when the curtain is open and the lights slowly come up, when the first note? I mean, I can picture it, but I want to know, does that really happen?
Well, it depends on what you're seeing and how it's being done, that particular production.
Right, because of the direction.
Yeah, the director and the designer and everything. The one I saw was it was in Dallas at the Music Hall in Fair Park, or not that one in particular, but one of the theaters they have there, and it was with the local band from Denton, who's called Oso Closo. Did a fantastic job matching the score and everything, and they just the band was on the stage the entire time, and it was a pretty small thrust stage, which means it was surrounded on 3 sides by the audience, and the actors would come onto the stage as well. There must have been 30, 40 actors maybe? I don't know. Probably less, actually. And so they all shared the stage, which was pretty cool when they decided to come out. There were little landings that would come out above certain parts of the audience. Like the end of the thing was the guitarist playing a solo pretty much right over my head, and it was kind of amazing.
That's really cool.
And yeah, they did a great job. And they did to begin it was all we saw on the stage was the drum set and a couple of mics and keyboards here and there, and the pinball machine off to the side. And the band just came on, took their stuff up, and said, "And we're Oso Closo, and this is Tommy." And then, bam, they began. And that was a fantastic play. I wish they had made some kind of visual recording of that. I have not seen one. I don't think they ever made an audio recording. I just think it was the stage play and that was it, which is kind of disappointing because I saw that in my I think I was in 8th grade. Jeez, ancient history. And
Don't talk about middle school.
yeah,
Talk about that.
we don't talk about it. It never happened. No, but that was a fantastic thing, and I wish I could see it again.
I would have loved to see that now with all the description, that you just gave for that. And
Yeah.
what I really like about the overture, and I wrote this in my notes, is that yes, it is the Who, but even from the opening track, it's different because a lot of what you hear in the song is it's not as heavy. I don't think there's ever electric guitar on the first few songs pretty much at all.
Though there is electric guitar, it's just
But very little of it.
It's very weak electric guitar, which was a production problem they had.
Right, but if you listen to Overture, and especially towards the ending, where you just hear Pete soloing on the acoustic guitar itself, I mean, first of all, it's brilliant with a capital B.
Pete Townsend on electric guitar can play everything.
I've been playing guitar for 3 years, and I still can't do that.
Oh, hell no.
That you're doing, and it's like...
No, you have to be Pete Townsend.
Exactly, but that's why I love this track, because it even announces, not only is this not going to be like any Who album you never heard, it's not going to be anything, period, you may have ever heard before in your life. And, I mean, of course, we're making the overture. It is big, but it does set the scene. We do get the opening lines. Captain Walker didn't come home. His unborn child, he'll never know of him, which sets the scene. And I even like the point that it's sung from the point of a narrator, kind of saying, we thrust you into the middle of the story.
Yeah, so here's a little bit of information.
A movie intro, really, where you're flying over the town and you're seeing all the stuff you're about to see, and then you just zoom in to point.
That's a really good point.
The second the lyrics come out of his mouth, just zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly, when his lyrics come, they're almost on the offbeat, so you almost, they kind of catch you offhand a little bit.
Yeah. And
so you're like, oh, right, this is a story. It's not just a grandiose classical piece.
Right. Which brings us right into the next song through a segue. It's a Boy.
I'm going to be honest, I have no comments. I just like it.
Yeah, it's a good song. It shows a very nice French horn from John Entwistle.
Oh, yes.
Who plays...
lovely.
Who plays all the brass on this album and does
so good.
Damn good job of brass everywhere. We've mentioned that John did all the brass on Quadrophenia as well. That was a much more expansive score, but this was kind of, where it all began. I know, no, he played some on Who Sell Out, but this is the real, I feel like the real beginning of some kind of regular playing with John.
This is them using themselves all to their fullest capacity.
Yeah.
Yes, you have John on the bass, but on Who Sell Out, he didn't use a lot of horn on it. This time, he probably felt a lot more comfortable doing it, so he's able to reach his capacities. And you get Pete on his abilities with electric and acoustic on this album too. So this band really shows himself to the talent, while at the same time making a story, which makes this all so worth a better listening experience.
Definitely.
Okay.
So 110%.
Yeah. So should we move on to 1921?
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. Got a feeling 1921. Interestingly, I have in my notes that the demo actually says 1929. So it's interesting why Pete changed those years.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any logical explanation for that.
No,
But 1921 it sounds better.
Yeah.
I mean, 1929 is going to be, I don't know, 1 sounds better.
Yeah, it's a more open vowel sound, probably, is the thing. 1921 is, this is where Tommy becomes traumatized by the death of the wife of Mrs. Walker's lover. when his dad comes home.
Also,
And
in the album, the lover dies, but in the movie, the actual father dies.
yeah, that was.
I've never explained that. What's the deal with?
In Who I Am, Pete says that was to make a bit of a Hamlet comparison for Tommy.
Right.
To have his father dead.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you,
Yes.
I'm with you, Becca. I watched the movie and I'm going, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know, if you're trying to be true, I mean, yes, you got Pete's. It's not like Pete, disapproved of it. He was there to say what he liked and didn't like about it. But yeah, I agree. But the first time I heard it, I mean, first of all, you hardly hear Roger in the beginning part of this album at all.
Mm.
So again, it is very different and dynamic. But when I first heard 1921, I didn't get the fact that. I mean, yes, I got the fact that two people were angry at each other, but for some reason I couldn't think of it as a murder.
Yeah.
Simply saying, it was almost like saying 1921 is good for this couple, but for me and my gal, it's going to be a lot better. It's almost like saying to the other couple, nah, poo-poo,
Yeah.
we're better than you.
But then there's the whole sort of middle-ish area. You didn't see it, you didn't hear it, you don't know anything about it.
The only reason I had any idea what was going on was because I read what the story was before hearing it.
Yeah. And, thank God for us, right? Telling everybody at home what's going on. But, yeah, I had to figure that out. I think I read it somewhere.
You didn't hear it.
Yeah.
It means nothing to no one.
Yeah.
Never in your life.
And they don't explicitly say a lot of things in this album, which kind of leaves it up to the viewer to decide, the listener, rather, to decide and to interpret for itself, which I think is actually one of this album's biggest strengths, is that it doesn't explicitly tell you much of anything.
Right.
And so...
and it's not like other musical scores or where, like, if someone does die, there's more of a big, like, dramatic, like, rise, and then there's the crash when someone dies.
This is just, he dead.
Yeah, he did.
Well, you could say the middle bit in 21, which is, I think, is definitely a little more driving, a little more urgent, kind of conveys that. You also have, in that middle-ish bit, if you listen, especially through headphones, you can hear Roger singing next to, you didn't hear it, you say, I did hear it, and I did see it.
Hear it. I heard it. I saw it.
Yeah, all that stuff. And that's the musical representation of Tommy in the mirror, apparently, which I think is a really clever device, but probably not very well explained.
I've always thought that was clever. I just never heard the mirror explanation for it until now.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know what he was singing at all. I just heard, I was like, is the backing track slightly off? Because there's two voices here.
Right.
I never caught that. I mean, and just also on a side note, on a geek note, the song was originally on the vinyl and even the cassette pressing, which I have somewhere. The song was actually called "You Didn't Hear It." So I guess the people running the record labels were too silly to realize that wasn't the title.
Yeah.
Season's greetings, listeners.
This is Triple Threat with a special holiday announcement.
The end of 2013 is upon us, and we have had an amazing half a year.
We started this show back in September of this year, and we've saved the best for last.
As 2013 comes to a close, we're going to be releasing 3 back-to-back episodes covering the 3 big albums that you see on our website and our profile picture. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles,
Tommy by The Who,
and The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
This way we can end the year with a bang and go out on a big note. No pun intended.
So check out our next 3 episodes as we ring out 2013 with these 3 big albums to cap off a great first year.
Thank you so much for listening to Triple Threat, and have a happy holiday season.
Bye-bye. So we move on to Amazing Journey and Sparks.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
What do you think of that, Becca?
Amazing Journey is exactly what the title, says. It's going to take you on an amazing journey. You are about to... Sickness will surely take the mind where minds can't usually go.
Indeed. I just love how it immediately sucked me in as soon as I heard, the 2 chords and then...
Yes.
Because I was like, what is this?
There you are, you're about to go on this little trip. Have at it.
Yeah.
And then it pulls you into Sparks, which is such a great instrumental. I I really love Sparks a lot. I could talk forever about Sparks, even though it has no words and isn't like long. It's just so good because it's got like the and then goes into the Underture riff,
Bum 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 bum.
which has such a good bass part. Oh my goodness. And it just conveys emotion. I'm not sure what kind of emotion, but just some sort of like, there's so much to it. It packs a punch, but I'm not sure what kind of punch at all, and it just mystifies me and amazes me every time I hear it.
Right.
I love Sparks.
Do you know what I connect Sparks to?
What?
It's funny that you actually bring that up, because I was about to go into that. Like, when you said it, you envision something or you feel something. I liked it, like I said, growing up, but I didn't really get what the whole envisioning and how you feel part until I saw Almost Famous. And there's the scene, for those who don't know, Almost Famous is a movie by Cameron Crowe where the little boy, William, his sister runs away from home and she leaves all of her records for him, and she leaves behind Tommy, the LP, which, Cameron Crowe, if you're listening, give me it. You don't need it anymore. But he opens it up because it was a gatefold cover, and there's a little handwritten note that says, "Listen to Tommy with a candle burning, and you will see your entire future." And the little boy puts it on, probably has no idea how to play a record because he starts it in the middle of the record where Sparks is and lands exactly when Sparks begins. And then he lights the candle, and then there's a whole montage of things get dark, the record is spinning, the candle's burning, and then you see him like on his like notepad writing out different bands and different genres of rock. Essentially, this was like with all due respect, the drug gateway to his musical life. So that's why when you said envision, I liked it, but when I heard it in Almost Famous and I saw the visual, it just took on an entirely different meaning for me. And so now I can't listen to the song without picturing a dark room with a candle burning.
Oh, totally.
And it is...
That makes a lot of sense.
Have you ever seen Almost Famous? I'm just curious.
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's so good. You should watch it.
It's definitely a top 50 movie for me. I mean, I'm not saying that because I'm a musical geek, but it is done so extremely well. I would actually recommend go and find the bootleg cut version, which is over 2.5 hours long, which is incredible. It's just one of my absolute favorite movies.
Also, hot babes. Just putting it out there. Hot chicks in that movie.
Well, another thing I have written in my notes about Sparks is another thing that I connected to. We were talking about the birds on the cover, and Sparks, you do get that kind of like that howling sound, almost kind of like a yipping wild bird sound. And
yes.
And you know what I connected to? I connected to, you hear that and the drums going, I think of Tomorrow Never Knows.
Ah. Oh, wow.
It's just this mysticism.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they're both both those songs, they're very dreamlike, they're very, you know, almost like a stream of consciousness, except Sparks, like you said, Amazing Journey, like, straps you into the roller coaster, and Sparks...
That is the roller coaster.
Like, forces you at the 80 miles per hour ride.
Yeah. I really like... Amazing Journey is one of my favorite songs on this album, which is kind of odd. It's not, you know, the most well-known song on the album. I love the vocals first off because they're so detached. It's just almost not there.
Yeah.
And
also,
can I just say something about the vocals? Yeah. Damn you, Roger! You start the song thinking I can sing along with you. It's in my perfect range, and then you jump for the "Cities Will Surely Take the Mind." And I respect you, but grr, I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong.
Surely take the mind. I can't. Nope.
And the fact that you can pull it off live, show after show after show, just it makes me want to punch him. Yeah. But but Roger, I will not let it.
Loving way possible.
Dude, first off, you would never punch Roger Daltrey. Second off, if you did, you would break your hand on his rock hard abs.
You would.
Anyway, I also love the drums on Amazing Journey. This is probably one of Keith Moon's best drumming songs ever in the history of ever.
Oh yes.
Even the way that the drum comes in is very off a little bit. It's like doom 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 doom.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just goes right back into it. Yeah. So that was probably the first big highlight on the album for me. Years later, when I finally listened to it from start to finish.
Oh, so guess what Sparks represents on this album? As Pete said in his memoir, Tommy experiences all of his when he's deaf, dumb, and blind. He experiences everything through touch, and the way his brain is wired, or something. I think because they mention he's autistic in the book, that he perceives all vibration as some type of music. And so Sparks is the music he gets from some unnamed scenario. That's she's freaking out.
That's worth banging on the desk for.
Realization that the music is how, because I have this idea. I feel that music is what thoughts and feelings sound like.
Yeah.
I make that connection instantly, and even like without words, you can hear a thought or a feeling. Like that's what this feeling sounds like, and that just fits so well. And that is how Sparks makes me feel, and that is perfect. That was in Pete Townshend's. Good man.
Can I just say, I never read that, or at least I don't remember reading that part.
Yeah.
But when you said he feels, and the song's called Sparks, I was like, did he shock himself or something? And that's
I don't actually know why it's called Sparks.
It kind of fit, like, if you didn't know that,
you would still say that Sparks is a good title. Yeah.
It's an appropriate title, yes.
Such a good title.
But also, it's an instrumental. So what are you gonna call it? Untitled instrumental number 1.
Psh.
But so yeah. So shall we move on then?
Let's.
To the only cover on this album, which is very interesting that Pete would choose a cover to put in his own story.
Yeah.
Eyesight to the Blind, The Hawker, written by Mose Allison, and the Who were big Mose Allison fans. That they are. They did Young Man Blues.
Yeah.
Also of him, which, by the way, people check out the original, and you will question how that song became a Who song.
Oh yeah. Whoa. It's funny. Young Man Blues almost made it onto Tommy. They just couldn't find a way that it would fit in the narrative.
But also, how could it fit?
I know, right? It fits extremely well where it is on Live It Leads.
I mean, Eyesight to the Blind is a good title because it's literally he's blind and he needs eyesight.
Yeah.
It's a good song to put in here. Again, I'm not saying it's a filler track, but it's one of those where I listen to it looking for specific details I like about it, but I just like this whole song as a whole. I honestly don't have much to say about it.
Yeah.
I feel you on that one.
Right. Although we should just kind of on a geek. I'm sorry. Did you want to say something?
Yeah. Eyesight to the Blind in the story of Tommy, in the narrative story of Tommy, is the parents' first attempt to cure him. I've seen this go many different ways. In the movie, it was through drugs and alcohol, with Eric Clapton being a badass.
And also almost an entirely different version in the movie, too.
That was an arrangement.
Yeah, almost entirely different.
That was arranged by Eric Clapton.
Marilyn Monroe worshipping clan they bring into.
Yeah. I've also seen it just be straight up religious fervor. Like, that was in the Oso Closo show. They did a gospel version of Eyesight to the Blind, and I was like, yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, Eyesight to the Blind, it worked because it is more of a blues song, and blues songs can be stretched out in many different ways.
Yeah, there have been, like we said,
Eric Clapton did it pretty much like straight blues.
We did it. Eric Clapton made his own arrangement to it. The Who had their own arrangement to it. I heard Pete Townsend do a version on the Deep End Live album.
Yes.
They're all totally different, but they have the same lyrics. That's the only thing that's consistent. The chords are different. The riffs are different. That's the thing that surprises me about blues, is that you can change it in any different way and still have to give credit to the one guy. But anyway, Eyesight to the Blind, similarly, has different ways you can take it. I think Pete intended originally that the hawker is a pimp, gets women, and so they do stuff to Tommy to try to cure him through the power of womanness. Yeah.
If only he was conscious for that.
I
He can still
Stop.
You can still feel.
Indeed. So, next song, right?
Well, before we move, I just wanted to say two quick things about Eyesight to the Blind. When you were mentioning Eric Clapton, I mean, in the movie, that is a really funny section of Eric Clapton's autobiography where he talks about going there. It was right in the middle of...
this story.
He was right in the middle of when he was in rehab. Pete would constantly check up on him, and he said, "Hey, well, while I'm talking to you, we're doing this movie. You want to come be a part of it?" And he came to record, and he said he doesn't remember much about it because he spent the whole day getting drunk with Keith.
There you go.
He said, "Who compared to Keith, I seemed like a lightweight."
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Also, on a geek note, for those who are collectors out there collecting things, there was an alternate version of Eyesight to the Blind with a different vocal take on it. That came out in the UK in 1972 and was a bonus track on the Then and Now compilation in Japan only. So for those of you who want to, like I said, collect all the rarities, it is up there and you can go out and find it.
I wouldn't recommend it. That's the vocal take they did on the final version is much better.
It is good. I mean, you can find the different alternate take. It is on YouTube. You can search it. Also, I had in my notes for one last thing on Eyesight to the Blind. Because it is the only cover on this, it's interesting that for the next rock opera, well, quote rock opera for Lifehouse, it's interesting that Pete wanted to put in "Baby Don't You Do It," which was another cover.
Yeah.
So he must have really, liked putting those covers into his stories and shaping them into his own way, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a cool little tribute saying, I'm using your work to do something entirely different, but I hope you think it's really cool.
And Quadrophenia, he did the same thing again, except he used their old music, so he's paying tribute to himself.
Yay!
Yeah, narcissism.
Yay!
Hey.
Next song.
Christmas!
Yay!
Ah,
This, I have to say, was another standout track because just from the title alone, I thought, oh, this is going to be a happy, jolly Christmas song.
You're darn right it is, for most of it.
For most of it, yes. And I liked it. I actually do kind of sneak it into a Christmas playlist on my iTunes, even just kind of play it. It's not a long song just because I need a complete Christmas playlist. I do like it. I love the vocal on it. I love the backing vocal at the beginning. It fits really well. And yes, it is a happy song for the most part until it takes the...
And it takes the dark turn in the middle, which is my favorite part of the song. The rest of it is... The rest of it, as you said, is pretty lightweight.
But then it just, the transition from the lightweight to the dark is just part of what makes it so good.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, it's Christmas. By the way, your kids still can't, see you're here. Anything.
Which is why I think it works so well, because it's almost like the parents have tried everything and they're just going to probably just forget about it. Because it's Christmas Day, you should be happy. And then there's like, oh, right. He's still...
know what day it is.
Yeah.
He doesn't know who Jesus was or what praying is.
Yeah.
Right.
I really like Christmas, especially the middle bit, because it's a character study more than anything else. It shows the parents are already, and they've only tried, as far as we know, 1 or 2 attempts to cure Tommy, and they're already exasperated. These people are not, patience is not one of their virtues.
No.
And they you see, they do believe in some kind of spirituality. Like, I believe in love, and how can he be saved? That sort of thing. So you do see they are trying and they are praying for him, etc. And then you see Tommy in the character study, which I think is definitely more important, because you see he is active. This is the first time you hear Tommy's voice on the album, and you don't really think about this
because Roger's singing both.
Well, yeah, I was thinking mainly because there are other songs that overshadow Christmas, but this is the first time you hear Tommy actually make some kind of appearance on the album, and he's reaching out the entire time.
He's pleading.
Yeah.
But he's trapped. But he's trapped in his, his deaf, dumb, blindness, and nobody hears him.
Yeah.
Nobody feels him. People see him, but they don't feel him. They don't. He's almost saying, I don't know what's going on, but I want to know. I want to be alive.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like alive. He's not dead. He's not a vegetable, people.
Well, yeah.
But
we know what you mean, Tom.
Right. But he wants to celebrate Christmas. Even though he doesn't know what it is, he wants to feel the emotions. It's like I'm a boy. He wants to be the little kid
Yeah.
that he is. Also, again, being a geek note, the demo, Pete says, instead of playing Poxy Pinball, is playing with himself because, as we'll get to, pinball was not part of the story in the original.
Yeah.
The demo says playing with himself, so I had to put that in there. The parents lose, like you said, parents lose patience, and they leave him alone with. I'm not gonna lie, this song actually kind of scared the crap out of me.
Oh yeah.
Cousin Kevin, everybody.
One of John's contributions to this album.
The first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really descending bass line throughout the whole song. Kind of almost like a Boris the Spider. This is not going to be very pleasant.
Oh,
It's not going to end well for poor little Tommy.
Because you see, as you'll definitely hear pretty much immediately in the lyrics, that Cousin Kevin's not a fun guy. Child abuser. That's where this is going.
I wouldn't want him as my cousin.
Yeah.
Oh no, certainly not.
It's, definitely... It would probably hit you pretty hard, just as a warning for those of you who have had bullying experiences in the past, because Cousin Kevin does some pretty nasty stuff to Tommy, and it's all explained fairly explicitly in the song.
Right, like he ties him to a chair, or he turns on the shower.
Yeah.
He pushes him down the stairs, which is just...
Locked them outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you gotta admit, it's kind of comedic the way it's framed.
Except when you watch the movie.
When you watch the movie, I think it's more obviously comedic, actually.
Well, he makes it almost a comedic song because it's a lot faster too, and played on piano.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about the movie in a different episode, but I had to mention that.
That's another time.
Yeah, but that is just like you thought that was bad. It gets worse.
Sort of.
Oh yeah.
But I will be. When I was young, I didn't think much of it. I thought it was very cutesy. You know, the lyric. I'm evil, I know, but the lyrics were kind of cutesy. That as a lyric says, "Oh, do you know how to play hide and seek?" From one cousin to another, and then the evil line right after that.
Oh yeah.
To find me would take you a week. It's like he's a very deceiving cousin. He comes off innocent to the parents, but get him alone, and he's gonna rip your heart out.
Yeah, I kind of had a weird relationship with this song because I'm the oldest of 4. So I've kind of been Cousin Kevin at times, which is not a fun place to be.
You pushed your cousin down the stairs?
No, my brothers and sister.
Oh.
No, not my sister, my brother. My sister is my princess, spoiled sister, but I love her anyway. And I love my brothers too, but because we were closer in age, it was always this kind of, fighting and bickering. But I'm the oldest sibling. So for the longest time, I was the smartest sibling. I was the one who would get them, hey, do this. It's not going to hurt at all, sort of thing.
Yikes.
And, yeah, I could be pretty nasty.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and I've noticed, Pete mentioned this in his memoirs, that the main reason he felt very uncomfortable writing this sort of thing into the narrative, and why he asked John to write it, was because not only had he been bullied at a young age, but he had been the bully. And he found that a very scary place to revisit, and he just didn't want to go there. So yeah, food for thought right there.
Right, great. Now I'm reflecting on listening to the song in my head, I'm thinking about every bad thing I've ever done to somebody, thinking, God, why did I do that? Especially, I'm sorry. Can we move on?
Yeah,
I was always a Tommy. I was too weak to do anything.
Aww.
Can we move on, please?
Yeah, the drugs.
And this is again where I'm evil. This is my favorite song on the album. I am so evil because, and I've said this before to Garrett, if there ever is a play, audition for me to be in it, and God forbid that there will be, but if there ever is a chance, kind of like Rocky Horror Picture Show, where I can play a woman, I would audition as the Acid Queen.
That's incredible, and now I hope you get to audition for Tommy.
Oh, jeez.
I mean,
I would fly out to wherever in Texas to see that.
Well, Tom, I do know that you have played a woman on stage before.
Many times.
Anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's another story for another time, folks.
Trust me, on this podcast...
The Acid Queen would be priceless.
Right, but on this podcast, that will never be a story.
No.
But, yes, I mean, both of you know that I can be quite, maniacal. So I would just have so much fun I mean, would I have fun being Cousin Kevin? No, because that would hurt me. But being this, I pictured just like Tina Turner. Like, I take the money from the parents, and then I just like crazy experiment on this child until he is either cured or he's the way that I want him to be.
So the Acid Queen is this song, yeah. I don't think we actually said the title.
We did.
Whatever. Yeah, so parents hire this weird lady to give Tommy drugs. See if that'll cure him.
Yay!
Doesn't, of course, because, drugs.
Can I just say...
They're always the problem, never the solution.
But there's so many...
The more you know.
I mean, even though it is a drug-infested, plot, there are some really good lyrics in here. Just, if you think about almost being kind of like almost spiritual in a way, your boy won't be a boy no more. He'll be young, but not a child. Something like that. I mean, it's like becoming, spiritual. I mean, yes, I am young of age, but I'm not a child. I'm becoming a mature man. So I relate to that line a lot. So
I don't know if that has much to do with drugs.
I get a kick out of it.
I was about to say, I'm thinking that's something different there, guy.
There have also been some speculation. I haven't heard this too much that the Acid Queen was also was also having sex with Tommy.
Yeah.
Don't know if that was the parents' intention.
I never caught that.
It probably wasn't the parents' intention. And she was just, crazy, and he had him flipped out on drugs, so why not get a little going on, so...
Right. But, like I said, this is something... Oh, I'm sorry, we haven't had a chance for Becca to say what she likes about the song.
Yeah.
I like that noise Garrett made. How about that?
Again, yeah. So, again, the riffs.
Yes.
A very fun riff throughout this song.
Mm.
And I have to say, like, we're talking about Amazing and Journey and Sparks, how they go together. You cannot beat the Acid Queen going into Underture, because Underture is...
I'm falling out of my chair for those who cannot see the Skype call right now.
Because, I mean...
It works so nicely. It's just so good.
And also, Becca, you mentioned earlier that, Underture, it's, maybe you don't want to listen to it because it is very spacey and is out there, but you find yourself keep listening to it. It is very spacey because I've always said, I mean, you guys may think I'm wrong on this, but to me, this is Tommy's drug trip.
Yes,
song.
yes, it is.
That is the narrative intention of this song.
Yeah.
This was Tommy flipped out on drugs, and this is what he experienced, like Sparks was.
Yeah.
Also, going back to Acid Queen real quick, I think this is one of the highlights of the album in that it's Pete's longest vocal, just on his own. He has the most mellow voice of the band, so of course he's going to be the woman. But I really like how he plays the Acid Queen, very cold, very precise. Just don't worry, I'm going to get this done. And, once the parents have their backs turned, maybe they get the hee-hee going. But,
close the door, leave us for a while.
Yeah.
Pay before we start.
Boy, no more.
Yeah. And that's why I prefer it to anything done by, Patti LaBelle or Tina Turner. Even though they're amazing in what they do, they just don't capture the original spirit of the song.
Which is why I've said, if it is possible for a male to play, if some production out there will allow a male to play it, I would love to do it. Because
You probably want to shave first, Tom.
The Acid Queen.
Yeah.
Keep it with the freakiness of the whole thing,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess that already segued nicely into Underture. This is one of the songs that I had to be honest, because it was a 10-minute instrumental and I wanted to know the story, I usually skipped it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because
I personally feel that 10 minutes of the same thing over and over again should be boring, but in this case it's
not. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Right. But that was not the first time we'd already heard the Underture riff. That was in Real.
Yeah. All of the, the Sparks and the Overture and the Underture, those all come from Rael on
A track from Who Sell Out.
Which I thought was kind of weird, and I really don't know why they did that.
Maybe Pete thought nobody listened to it the first time.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly his reasoning.
He's like, guys, it's a good riff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, it's a good riff. Why aren't you listening to it? And so he just puts it in Underture instead.
Yeah, because
wow, it's really good.
yeah, it's very strange because Tommy takes place, from 21 to probably the 50s. You get based on Tommy's age. That is never really explicitly stated. And Rael is a 1999 war between, I think, Israel and China. So they're entirely unrelated projects with the same musical structure, and I just go, screw it, it's all right, the music's good, let's keep going.
Right. And Rael has grown on me. I mean, I actually heard it after, of course I heard it after Tommy, and so I was like, come on, Pete.
Wait a minute, what
are you doing here?
Yeah, but Underture, yeah, like you said, I usually skip this one to get on with the story, and I don't listen to it too much today even. Mainly I just leave it for the end.
I have it on an instrumental playlist, definitely.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's something to listen. It's something to listen to. I mean, almost as something kind of like as the story. It's something kind of like in the background while you're doing other things.
Right, and I would, like I said, I put this at the end because I feel like it has a better conclusion. It acts better as a conclusion to the album than listening to you, See Me, Feel Me, whatever you want to call it. Because I just feel like See Me, Feel It is a letdown, but we'll get to that later.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all of side one there.
Yeah. So then you have to physically get up after your drug trip, flip the LP to start off with.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's all the time we have for this episode of Triple Threat. Tune in to a few episodes in the near future to hear part 2 of our conversation talking about Tommy, where we'll talk about the songs on the second side of this album. We'll be back next week for our 2013 in review show and more album reviews to follow. In the meantime, you can check out the other episodes of the show by visiting the show's website at www.mixcloud.com/triplethreat. And be sure to check out our YouTube page, which we'll be uploading content on very soon. So, from all of us at Triple Threat, thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
And so, that's lovely, Becca.
Thank you.
For those of you who can't see, which is pretty much everyone else, she's made a picture of Keith Moon and put a speech bubble on it that says balls. Thanks.
Well, it's not like you wouldn't have said that anyways.
Yeah. Here's one for the outtake reel.
Referencing an interview in which he is playing pinball, and he discusses his love of big, shiny silver balls.
I love that.
Speaking of big, shiny silver
big,
balls, how does
shiny
that
balls
big, shiny
going
silver ball come into play on this Tommy album here, good sir?
Do what?
Pinball.
Yeah, I'm getting to it. Anyway, after we cut that out for the outtakes.
Do a segue. I didn't think I'd make you guys crack this bad.
It's fine.
Think of it as Keith making everyone laugh while they're doing the vocal tracks.
Totally. Now then.
That's going to be me with Microsoft Paint this evening. I always have to play the Keith in every social situation because that's what I want to be.
There you go. Now then, as I was saying,
and again, Becca's showing her Keith-like pose over Skype, and it's actually pretty funny, I will say.
Keith plus Becca forever.
You are correct.
Mm-hmm.
Move over, Richard Wright.
Oh,
break over.
I think Keith would probably be the guy she has an affair with, and Rick she'd probably marry.
Yeah. And now Becca's just drawn 3 hearts all over. 4 hearts, excuse me.
Oh my gosh, they're everywhere.
5 hearts.
Alright.
A lot of hearts, people. So.
We get it, Becca. It, I was gonna say something awesome. Right, that must have been some kind of music, eh? You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm sorry.
Anyway, yes.
That's very PG on this show.